Hi guys, so this video is on 5 brilliant foreign developers, or rather 5 brilliant non-English speaking developers. Of course, in today's world most people do speak English, but I'm talking countries where English is traditionally not the first language. Now I will be excluding my own country, England, Britain, America and Japan, because those three have like the powerhouses when it comes to video games. So I am looking at places where English is not the first language. So 4A Games, this is a Ukrainian game developer. The founders were Oles Shishkostov and Alexander Maximchuk. Not sure if I pronounced that right, but you know, I'm not Russian. I actually remembered this company as being Russian. They're actually Ukrainian. They are, of course, well known for their Metro series.
Oppa, that's great!
So the Metro games use something called the 4A engine, which is 4A's version of the Unreal Engine. The first Metro game was released in 2010, being Metro 2033. That was a game based on a novel of the same name by Russian author Dmitry Glukovska. I think I pronounced that one right. So they did have a large amount of help from the publisher THQ. So of course, probably you're thinking, Ukraine, wasn't there a war there recently? People shooting each other, killing prisoners and such like. It looked pretty grim. Well, yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. 4A Games had considered, you know, different countries, and in the end they moved their headquarters to a town in Malta. They're also due to release a new game soon called Metro Exodus. They are aiming for autumn 2018. So yeah, I actually have all the Metro games. Yeah, the Metro games are really fun, really atmospheric. I mean, the graphics as well are pretty good, and of course it's not just a regular FPS, there is quite a deep story. It kind of is like, you know, a stalker game, only in a sort of Metro underground type setting. If you haven't played the games, I definitely recommend having a look at them. Obviously you could just have a look on YouTube and you'll probably see what I mean. So yeah, this again, an unusual company, but they release some really good games, so long live 4A Games. Another nation not particularly well known for video games is Italy. Milestone consider one of my favourite developers because I like racing games and they really specialise in racing games. So their headquarters are in Milan. They were founded in 1994 by Antonio Farina as Graffiti. The studio was soon renamed Milestone in 1996. Of course they are best known for their Superbike, MotoGP, MXGP and WRC series. So they are one of the biggest game developers in Italy. So they actually started out with Screamer 2, which were very kind of good rally games for the time. They were released in the late 90s. Then they teamed up with EA to make the Superbike, the first Superbike games based on the Superbike World Championship. I actually had Superbike 2001, which I think I bought from Game, but that was a really good game. I mean, it still stands up today, to be honest. The graphics are slightly different to modern sort of graphics, but they still kind of work quite well. And the game was brilliant for attention to detail as well. Like all the riders, the bikes, everything had all the right decals. And they kind of carried that on with, you know, SBK when the Superbike World Championship, which is the sort of rival to MotoGP. They've rebranded themselves as SBK, so they released SBK games, 08, 09, 2011. They haven't done one of those for a little while. More recently they've been doing MotoGP games every year, and they don't do it every year. I mean, they skipped a year into 2016 to do Valentino Rossi the game, and also they did have an experiment with WRC games, which were the official games of the Rally World Championship, FIA WRC Rally World Championship, and I think on the whole these were okay, but the Codemasters series of dirt games was probably a bit superior. But probably my personal opinion, the best games they did were the Superbike games, particularly the recent MotoGP and the sort of older World Superbikes. So let's move on. So moving on, Pyro Studios is a Spanish company with their headquarters in Alcobendas, Spain. Again, I've probably pronounced that wrong. Maybe Alcobendas. Alcobendas? Is that right? Yeah, maybe. So they are most well known for the Commando series and were founded in 1996. They made the Commando series, which is still available on Steam today. Obviously, it was at the time a groundbreaking series. The style of point and click on these sort of sprawling bird's eye view scenarios was something quite unique. I mean, we did have the sort of XCOM series before that, but that was turn-based, whereas Commandos is real-time. It's also quite a tough game. I mean, the idea is that you are an elite unit that can penetrate German, command posts, barracks, whatever, based in World War II, of course. The best game I can describe it, similar to perhaps, is the Desperado series by Eidos. Eidos are a British game developer. It's a similar style. It's just a little bit older, with slightly older and more sketchy graphics, but it did get really good critical acclaim. You can buy Commandos 1, 2 and 3. So nowadays they mainly just a mobile development company. They've merged with another company and call themselves Pyro Mobile Games. Of course, this is nothing like the heights of the Commando series. Okay, so another interesting nation here, the Czech Republic. They also, the big name in the Czech Republic at the moment is Warhorse Studios, which was founded as Prague Game Studios in 2011. The only game that they have really worked on is Kingdom Come Deliverance, which is it's like Skyrim but more realistic. It's actually set in the 15th century in the kingdom of Bohemia. So this is a really good game, again made by a very sort of small developer, small but dedicated. The game was in development for at least 5 years. They lacked financially and in general sort of gaming expertise. They made up for with dedication. The people who made this Kingdom Come game were all really dedicated. I've heard a lot of stories of them staying overnight sleeping in the office at their desk. So let's briefly touch on this game that's made this company so famous and made them probably quite a lot of money. So it's basically a bit like a Skyrim game, but realistic and with a much more detailed melee control system. I mean, they are trying to simulate real combat styles from the time. It's also historically accurate. I mean, it's trying to show a time where everyone was Christian. You didn't fight gunpowder, you fought with swords, with bows and arrows. You didn't go down to Tesco's. You used to to get your food, you had to catch your food. So yeah, it's very interesting, especially if you're interested in medieval history, although this is probably a little bit post-medieval, but Dark Ages, medieval, same sort of thing. Yeah, it's kind of like medieval knight simulator, but it is very detailed as well. It's a bit like Skyrim. It's got huge areas to play the game in, and a lot of it is historically accurate. as well, although it's got a story too, which is cool. So, moving on. Now, once again, another developer with a Russian sounding name, CD Projekt Red, spelt with a K, was founded in the mid-90s. They were originally pirating American PC games for the Polish market, but the two guys who started it were actually pretty good coders. They became game developers, founding the Witcher series, and they are now worth at least $1.6 billion. They also are the founders of GOG.com, or Good Old Games. It's kind of like a retro version of Steam. So these guys, actually from humble beginnings, actually doing things illegally, they became legitimate, doing a Polish version of Baldur's Gate, which I don't think was released. They started on the Witcher series, which is the one that made them a lot of money, and of course, if you know anything about games, both on console and PC, The Witcher is a very critically acclaimed series. All three games came out, with probably 8 or 80 plus reviews. So, like with a lot of these small developers, their success bred success, and now The Witcher 3, which was released a couple of years ago, is a really good game. I mean, these guys have had to work with little money, small teams, just being uber dedicated, and now that they have the money, they can make their games that much better. And of course, yes, The Witcher 3 is a brilliant and very deep role-playing open world strategy game.